Hello and welcome to Building Your Best Brain podcast. This episode, this idea came to me when I was giving my Meditation in Your Brain workshop. So, for those of you who may not know, there are a few workshops that I give both virtually and in person, doing what I love to do, right? Which is to blend different yogic tools, practical hands-on tools with how we can regulate our nervous system, both when it comes to our stress response, but also, rewiring, creating new patterns, longevity, all of that juicy stuff. And one of my favorites is Meditation in Your Brain workshop. And so what I wanted to give you guys today is a sneak peek as to one of the things that I like to share. So this time I gave it to a bunch of yoga teachers, but I've given it to undergrad students before, as well as other professionals. And the sneak peek is some of my favorite long-term studies with meditation in the brain. So looking at what we call long-term meditators, long-time meditators, experienced meditators, and how their brains look different to people who are maybe not as experienced in the meditation space or who have not meditated at all. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see a photo because I usually in the workshop I do give slides and all that, and I won't be doing it for this portion. And I'll be sharing 2 out of the 5 that I shared in that specific meditation workshop. That being said, I am going to throw the references in the notes section, so you're more than welcome to read and follow up on these studies. And I encourage you to get your brain juices flowing. Like, don't be shy to ask me questions. In this workshop, I dive into a lot of different things. So looking at the short-term effects of meditation in your brain, tips, tricks, studies on how to implement practice, how long it should be, how often you need to meditate to start getting these benefits. So please drop them below, get your brain juices flowing. But with that being said, I'm going to stop rambling so you guys can enjoy this short little snippet of the Meditation in Your Brain workshop.
And we'll get into some of the long-term studies. There's quite a few, but I picked my favorites because that is the gift of being able to be a teacher. You get to teach what you want to teach. And so these ones I find are the most fun. And then we'll get into the brain plan when it comes to meditation. One is looking at different biomolecules. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this molecule before. It's called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is a molecule in your brain that helps with a few things. It helps with neuronal survival. It helps with neuroplasticity, and it helps with synaptogenesis. So synaptogenesis is just the birth of new synapses, so creating new connections. Neuroplasticity is the ability to change those connections, and neuronal survival is just being more resilient to whatever is coming its way. A systematic review, so a review that took a lot of studies together, saw that all of those studies, people that did mindfulness-based interventions, had an increase in peripheral BDNF. So taking blood samples, they were able to see that they had more circulating compared to control group. And this is where the question came in about age. There was no significant correlation between the effect sizes and the age of the participants. So it wasn't like younger participants who were meditators had way more BDNF than older participants who were meditators, which is very interesting. So this is at the level of kind of biomolecules and protein. Another level we can look at is the epigenetic level. So epigenetics is extremely interesting. It's the idea that your genes can change through environmental factors, and I'll explain a bit at the level of your DNA what this actually means. So basically, you have your DNA is organized in chromosomes, right, which you guys might be familiar with. And basically, your DNA, which is this helix here, is wrapped around a ball like this guy, which we call histones. And then the histones will wrap in on itself to form really tight, condensed chromosomes. And your DNA can have these little tags, either methyl tags or acetyl tags, little chemical tags that'll make the genes either more open or more closed. And if they're more open, they're more likely to express whatever message they have, right? So usually it's proteins, they'll express different proteins. So if it's more open, you'll more likely get a protein, more closed, you're less likely. And based off of, what you eat, what you experience, what you wear, epigenetics actually gets passed down from parent to child. You guys may have heard of this, right? So the idea that you're like inheriting your family's trauma is like not a lie. Epigenetics would be one of those reasons. And so this group, what they did was they looked at genome-wide methylation. So methylation is the tag that closes genes. And we typically have more methyls as we age because we kind of like accumulate them over our life. And we call this the epigenetic aging rate. And experienced meditators have significantly less methyl than their age-matched controls. And what they found was the most noteworthy kind of finding was that participants that were 50 years or older and were experienced meditators, their epigenetic rate looks really similar to people who were 30 that did not meditate, which was very, very cool. And what they also found in a follow-up study was they also looked at their changes in epigenetics before and after a meditation, what we call quick acute changes. And that people with experienced meditators, after a short meditation, their methylome changed. And a lot of the genes, the specific genes that were linked with that were related to immune and aging. So like your immune system. So we have the protein level, the BDNF, we have the epigenetic level. And then another level that's kind of interesting is just looking at the DNA on its own.
So that is the end of the sneak peek of the Meditation in Your Brain workshop. Again, if you have questions, both in terms of the impacts of the brain as well as practical tools and tricks, please drop them below. I would be happy to do a deep dive on any kind of pain point that you're experiencing. I appreciate your time and attention and looking forward to the next time we get to chat about how to build your best brain.